In this video, we are building a multimodal AI chat website using React, Tailwind, and Puter.js. If you are searching for a project to learn how to create websites with AI integration, this is the perfect place to start. It's beginner friendly, straightforward, and we're gonna get this done in under 200 lines of code. What's great about this project is, for AI integration, we are not going to need an API key or not gonna deal with any kind of complicated configuration code or any other setups. All these things will be handled by Puter.js, and this means we can just focus on creating our project without having to deal with usage limits or paying for credits. To make this even easier, I will provide you a starter code that includes everything that we are going to need, so you can just start the code along with me right away. By the end of this video, you will be ready to build your own AI-powered websites in the most simplest and fastest way possible. So, let's get into it. Before we start, let's take a look at the starter code that we will be using. You can find a link in the description to this project. So this is a React project with Tailwind inside, created using Vite. Here inside the app.jsx, we just have this gradient background and a header. We have a models.json file, and inside of this array, we have all the AI models that we will be using for this project. I'm gonna come back to this later. We also have the AI features coming from Puter.js, which works through this one simple script tag inside the index.html file, so we don't need to worry about setup, configuration, or API keys later. Everything is ready to start using AI features right away. Things like ai.chat, which is the one that we are going to use in this video, text to image, image to text, and text to speech, and a lot more. What's great about Puter.js is that you can make unlimited free API requests while developing without worrying about rate limits or billing. And when you eventually deploy your project, Puter handles all the billing on the user's end, so you can just focus on building the project. There's only one thing you need to do before we start, and that is logging in to puter.com. AI features won't work unless you are not logged in. There's a link in the description to this website where you can create a free account. It's 100% free, 100% safe, and it's also open source, so you can check out their GitHub repo if you like to. So after you're logged in to puter.com, we already have this script in place and everything is ready to go. When you have this script inside your project, it basically allows you to access an object called window.puter, and all the AI features basically comes with this one object. Using the AI, we can access to functions like chat and all the others that I showed you before, like text to speech. In this video, we will be using the chat function, and if you take a look at the official documentation here, it's pretty straightforward. Here you can see all the models that it supports. I will be explaining how all this works when we come to that part. Now let's start the project by importing all the hooks that we are going to use. We're going to create a couple of state variables. So let's import useState. We're going to create two effects. Let's import useEffect, and we're going to use useRef. As I said, we're going to use useState to create state variables and store and update some data. Then, using useEffect, we're going to create two effects. One to check if the Puter is loaded to the website, and another one to create a function that basically automatically scrolls to the last message. And to be able to auto scroll to that last message, we also need to reference to a element, and for that we're going to use useRef. Let's also import the JSON file with the AI models inside, and that is it with the imports. Now inside the app function, we can start by creating the state variables. The first one is going to be messages, set messages. This is going to be an array to store the messages inside the chat, equals useState. This will start as an empty array. Next, we're going to have a state variable to store the input value. We're going to use this to store the user input. Set input value equals useState. This will have an initial value of empty strings. Then we're going to have AI ready, set AI ready, This will have a initial state of false. We're going to use this to store the data of if the AI is ready or not. And depending on that, we're either going to show a loading spinner or a success message. Let's create the state variable for the loading spinner. Set is loading. This will also have a initial state of false. We're going to use this one to show that loading spinner if the AI is not ready. And when it becomes ready, we're going to turn both of these to true. Next, we're going to have selected model, set selected model. This will have the initial value of whatever AI model that we select. Let's take a look at the models.json. The most commonly used one among all of these is GPT-4o. So let's have the initial value as GPT-4o. So when you open the website, this will be the default AI model that we are going to use. And then we're going to create the functionality to be able to change this. Finally, we're going to create a messages and ref using useRef, and this will be null at first. We're going to attach this to a dummy div to be able to scroll down to the bottom of the chat. And this is pretty much it. Now we can create our first functionality, which is going to be a effect. So useEffect takes two parameters, the function and when we are going to run that function. So as the second parameter, if we provide a empty brackets, that means run this function as soon as this component is rendered. Now in our case, we want to check if the AI is ready, and we want that to happen as soon as the website is loaded. So that's why we pass a empty brackets. We're going to create this variable named check ready, and we're going to use a interval. Inside this interval, we're going to check if the AI is loaded every 300 milliseconds. So if the first check fails, it is going to keep checking if it's loaded or not. Inside the interval function, we're going to check if the window.puter object is loaded and the AI function is loaded and the chat is loaded. And if it's loaded, we're going to use this state variable that we have created here. Its initial state is false. If it's loaded, that means we can set it to true, and we can stop the interval from running by using clear interval and by passing this variable. So outside this variable, we're going to clear this useEffect using clear interval again to prevent any memory leaks. And now we have a effect that checks if the AI is loaded to the page as soon as this app component is mounted. We can create the second effect, which will be a lot simpler. We're going to check if there is a new message inside the messages array. And if there is a new message, we're going to make the window to auto scroll to the bottom of the chat. And we can do that by checking if messages and ref dot current. So if there is a current message, then we are going to scroll into that part. And we can also set a behavior to make it happen smoothly, and we can pass smooth. And this effect is going to depend on the messages array. So as soon as there is a new message in the array, then it is going to scroll into that. Here we provided an empty array to make it happen instantly. Now we are going to pass the messages array. So this effect will depend on the changes on the messages array. And as soon as there's a new message, it's going to automatically scroll into the latest message. Next, we're going to create the function to create add message. It's going to have two parameters, the content and is user. This basically indicates that if the message is from the AI or the user. So adding a new message to this messages array basically means updating it. And to update a state, we have a setter function here, set messages. Now using this set messages, gonna get if there is any previous messages, and we're gonna copy all the previous messages by spreading them, and we're gonna add the latest message with its content, and if it's coming from the user or the AI. And we're gonna create a simple ID for the message using date.now. So every time there is a new message in the chat, we return the chat just like it is, and we add the latest message. If there is no previous messages and we are sending the first message, then there is nothing to return from the previous messages, and it's just going to add the latest message. Next, we're going to create a function to be able to send the messages to the AI. This is going to be an async function because we are going to be sending an API request. First, let's get the message from the user. As you may remember, we stored the messages from the user inside this input state variable, input value. So we're going to get the message from there, and we're going to trim it to get rid of all the empty spaces. And we're going to have a base case. If there is no message, if the AI is not ready, then we are going to exit the function. Then we're going to update some state variables such as add message. We're going to pass the message that comes from the user from this input value, and we're going to set it to true. So message is the content and true means the message is from the user. Then we're going to reset the input value back to empty strings. Then we're going to set is loading to true because now that the message is passed, and we're going to send it to AI to expect an answer back. While all of this is happening, we're going to go into the loading state because it's going to take a couple of seconds. And as this becomes true, you're going to show a loading spinner on the UI. Now to send the message and get an answer back, I'm going to use a try and catch block. Inside the catch block, I'm going to catch the errors. And inside the finally block, you're going to set is loading to false because when we reach this part, the loading phase is done. We either get an error or the answer back. Inside the try block, we're going to create a conversation as an array. Inside the conversation array, we're basically going to create this structure to create a back and forth conversation with AI and the user. First, we are going to provide a system message to the AI, and we're going to set the role as system, and the content of this message will be you are a helpful assistant. You can create a longer and more detailed system message if you like to. In this case, I'm going to keep it simple. Now, this is basically the first message of the conversation. Of course, this will not be visible because it goes to the system. We are going to display the messages. We're going to get them from the messages array and spread them. And for every single message, you're going to have this structure. You're going to define a role depending on if it comes from the user or not. So is user true? Then we're going to set the role as user. And if it's from the AI, we're going to set it as assistant. And the content is just going to be the content coming from the message. And now that we defined the logic for the role, we can just display the user messages by setting the role as user and just display the content of the message. To get a response back, we're going to create this variable named response. Using the await keyword, we're going to wait for the response coming back from the AI. Let's use the Puter object to access the AI and the chat function. And inside the chat function, we can send this conversation logic. And the most important part, which model that we are going to be sending this conversation to. Oops, there's a little typo here. The model is going to be the selected model. We haven't created this logic yet, but we can just pass the selected model state variable from here. It will be GPT-4o initially. And now for the reply, let's create a variable named reply. First, we're going to check if the type of the response is a string. And if it's a JSON object, then we are going to parse that message. Or for some reason, if there is no response back, then we are just going to show this message, no reply received. By the way, these question marks basically checks if these values are undefined or not. And if they are, it prevents the app from crashing. So after all of this, if we get the reply, then we can add it to the conversation using add message. and we're gonna add the reply to the messages array, and the second parameter will be false because this will not be from the user, this will be from the AI. Let's create the next function, which will be a very simple one, handle key press. This is going to handle to sending the message if you press the enter key on your keyboard. So if you hit enter, as long as you're not holding the shift key, otherwise this would mean you're just trying to go to the next line, gonna prevent the default behavior of the browser, and we're just gonna send the message. Next, we're gonna create another function to handle the model change. First, let's put the current model in a variable named new model, and we're gonna target whichever model the user is selected, and after getting that info, we're gonna put it inside the selected model. We're gonna find the model from the model's JSON object using its ID, and by checking if the model's ID is equal to the newly selected model's ID, and we're gonna add a new message to the conversation using backticks. We're gonna say switched to, and we're gonna display the model name and its provider using model.provider, and this message will be from the AI, so we're gonna set it to false. And finally, we're gonna get the current model. We're gonna find it from the model's JSON object by its ID again. We're gonna check if it's equal to the selected model, and for some reason, if it's not, then we are just going to revert back to the first model. And this is it with all the functionality that we are going to need. Now we can go on to creating the UI and connect all of these functions to the UI. Now let's start by creating a gradient header. You're gonna keep the text, delete all of this. Let's set it to text 6x large for small screens, and for bigger screens it is going to be 7x large. Gonna create a gradient to right from amber 400 via yellow 400 to orange. We're gonna clip this text to the background using background clip text, and we're gonna set it to text transparent. Let's center it, and now it looks a lot better. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Next, under this H1, we're gonna create a badge to show if the AI is ready or not. Let's create it and set it as a flex container. Set the flex direction to column. For bigger screens, direction will be row. Gonna center the items horizontally and put some gap between them. Inside, we're gonna have another div that displays if the AI is ready or not. So if it's ready, then we're gonna display this message. If it's not, we're gonna display this one. To style this div, we're gonna use backticks, padding on the left and right 4, top and bottom 2, fully rounded corners, and text small. So if the AI is ready, then we're gonna display this green background and this green text with a green border. And if it's not ready, then we're gonna show this yellow background with a yellow text and a yellow border. And we can do a little check. If I refresh the page, for a split second, you can see that the AI is loading. So this functionality is working fine. Next, right under this div, we're gonna have another one, and we're gonna use this to create a select menu to select the AI model that we are going to use. Let's make it a flex container and center the items with gap of 2. Gonna create a span that says model. Let's make the text gray 300 and text small. Right under this, we're gonna create a select. We're gonna get the value of the selected model from this select menu. Let's create a onChange event handler, and we're gonna pass the handle model change function that we have created. And this select menu will be disabled if AI is not ready. Let's set the background to orange 950 with a 80% opacity, with a orange border, rounded corners, padding on the left and right 3, top and bottom 2. Gonna make the text white and small. On focus, gonna delete the outline, and when it's disabled, we're gonna lower down the opacity to 50, and we're not gonna allow the users to click on it using cursor not allowed, and cursor will be pointer on hover. Inside the select, we're gonna map over the models that we have, and for every model, gonna create a option. Let's provide a key, the model's ID, and the value will be the model's ID as well. Let's style it, background amber 950, and when this is open, we're not gonna have any border. Inside the options, we are just going to display the model name and the model provider. Let's see if it works fine. There you go. We have all the models inside the select menu. Let's move this div right under this badge inside this parents div. There you go. Looks a lot better. Now outside this parent div, we're gonna create a card for the AI chat section. Let's set the width to 100% with a maximum width of 2x large, and create a background gradient to bottom right from orange 950, 90%, to amber 950, and let's create a glass effect using backdrop blur medium with a border orange 800 with a 50% opacity, and give it some rounded corners, padding 6. Inside, at the top, you're gonna have a part that shows which AI model you're currently using. Create a div, make it a flex container, and center the items. Margin bottom 4, padding 2, with a background gradient to right from orange 600 to red 500 with rounded corners and a border. Let's make the border orange. Inside, we're gonna have this span that says currently using, gonna display the model, current model.name, and its provider, current model.provider. Let's make the text orange 300 and make it small with a font medium. There you go. Let's see if this changes when we select another model, and it seems to be working fine. So outside this div, you're gonna create the chat window. Let's set its height to 96. You're gonna set the overflow on the y-axis to auto, because as new messages come in, we want this div to expand vertically. Gonna have a border bottom, gonna make it gray 600, margin bottom 6 with a padding of 4. Gonna have a gradient to bottom from gray 900, 50% to gray 800, 50% with rounded corners. So if there are no messages, then we're gonna display this div, center the text, and make the text gray 400 with a margin top 20. You're gonna have this text that says start the conversation by typing a message below, and we have a break and another span that says try different AI models to see how they respond. Let's make this a lot smaller with text gray 500, margin top 2, and a block level element. And right now this is how the chat card looks like. So right under this message, we are going to map over the messages array, and if there are any messages, we are going to display them. Let's create a message bubble using a div. Gonna pass a key as the messages ID. We are going to style this using curly braces and backticks, padding 3, margin 2, rounded corners. Gonna use wfit and a maximum width of 80% and text wrap. This is going to beautifully wrap the message inside the message bubble because we don't know how long every single message is going to be, and this is going to handle it beautifully. So if the message is from the user, then we're going to create this gradient to right from orange 500 to red 500, make the text white with margin left auto, and we're going to align the text on the right. Oops, this is going to be inside the backticks. And if it's from the AI, we are going to create a different gradient from amber 600 to orange 600, and we're going to make the text white. Inside this div, you're going to display the message by accessing the message's content. To make sure the messages wrap inside this div correctly, I'm going to use white space pre-wrap, and right under this curly braces, I'm going to open another one to create a loading state. So if we are in the loading state, we are going to display this div with a padding of 3, margin 2, rounded corners with a maximum width of XS, a background gradient to right from amber 600 to red 600, and text white. Inside, we're going to have this div, which will be a flex container, center the items with gap 2. We are going to display the current model name is thinking, and right on top of it, we're going to have a loading spinner. We can use animate spin from Tailwind with 4, height 4 with a border of 2. Going to make the white border 30%, and border top is going to be white, and it is going to be a circle. So we are going to display this when you send a message to the AI and waiting for a message. And to be able to scroll down automatically to the latest message, we're going to create a empty div, and we are going to refer this using messages and ref, and the effect that we have created at the top. This is going to scroll into that div, which will be at the bottom of the conversation every time there is a new message in the messages array. Now that we have handled this as well, we can go on to create the input section. Let's make this a flex container with flex direction of column. After the small breakpoint, gonna have a flex direction of row with a gap of 3. The input is going to be a text. We're gonna get the value and store it inside the input value state variable. Let's create a onChange event handler, and every time there is a new input, we are going to update the state using set input value with that target value. Also, we have created a function to be able to send the message when you hit the enter key on your keyboard. We can use that using on key down and pass handle key press. Let's also set a placeholder. If AI is ready, then we're gonna say ask whatever model is selected, anything. And if it's not ready, we are just gonna say waiting for AI to be ready. And the input will be disabled when the AI is not ready, or if we are in the loading state. Let's style this input. It is going to take 1 fraction of space, so flex 1, padding left and right 4, top and bottom 3. Background is going to be yellow 900 with 30% opacity and a amber border. Let's give it rounded corners, make the text white, and placeholder gray 400. When you focus on this input, gonna delete the outline and create a ring. Also on focus, gonna create this cool orange shadow. So let's create a shadow, and on focus, gonna make that shadow amber 700. Also, we're gonna make the ring orange as well. Let's make this smooth by using transition duration 400. And when this is disabled, we are going to lower down the opacity and not going to allow the user to click on it using cursor not allowed. So right next to this input, we're going to create the button to send the messages. So on click, we're going to pass the send message function, and the button will be disabled when AI is not ready, or we are in the loading state, or the input area is empty. Let's give it a padding and create a background gradient to right from orange 400 to red 400. On hover, we are going to lower down the opacity, make the text white, font semi-bold, rounded corners, and a transition. When the button is disabled, we are going to lower down the opacity to 50 and not going to allow the users to click on it. Inside the button, let's open a set of curly braces. If we are in the loading state, flex item center with a gap of 2, gonna say sending. And if we are not in the loading state, then we are just gonna display the send message. Let's copy and paste this loading spinner right on top of the sending text. And that is it. Let's see if everything is working fine. The UI looks like it's completed. Let's send a message. Right now we have the default GPT-4o and we have the message coming back from the AI. Let's select it to Gemini Flash. Here we have the message that says switch to Gemini Flash. Let's test it. There you go. We have the message coming from another AI model as well. Let's try another one. And as you can see, when there is a long message, it automatically goes to the last message. So auto scroll function is working fine as well. Let's type another one to see if it's working again. There you go. So this is how we can create a multimodal AI chat using React, Tailwind, and Puter.js. I hope you guys find the video helpful and enjoyed it. Please not forget to subscribe. I will be making a lot more videos like this in the future. Thank you for your time and see you in the next video.